Hi, I'm Ed from Ed Talk Today. Last month I shared a video, Start Your Own Business, the best decision I ever made. That video was meant to be more personal and inspirational. I promised to follow it up with part 2, providing some practical step-by-step advice who wanted to start their own small businesses. If you haven't watched that video, I'll leave a link at the end of this one. But today I'm going to share some of the basics of starting the business and being your own boss. If you're game, I'll set you up on a path to having more control over your career, making more money, and having the satisfaction of building something for your future. I'm not talking about buying someone else's business. I'm talking about becoming a true entrepreneur, building something from nothing. And if you have what it takes, I'm here to help you any way I can. There's nothing I'd like to see more than you seizing the initiative and going out on your own. Now, don't misunderstand me. Starting a business from scratch is hard work and will likely only pay off if you're willing to put a lot of time and effort into it. If you're looking to escape a difficult job and glide along being your own boss, this is not for you. A true entrepreneur is someone who starts with nothing but guts, maybe only a few bucks, but a lot of determination and drive. This is someone like you who wants to earn more money than their peers, set their course toward financial independence. And maybe it's someone who thinks they're smarter than their boss. That was me for many years. So let's get started. Here are some of the major building blocks. Just as a reminder to those who may or may not have seen the first video, I started my first business with $5,000 of my own money in a 10 by 15 foot office. 8 years later, it had grown to 300 employees, building approximately $11 million a year. The company was on the Inc. 500 list as one of the fastest growing companies in the USA for 2 straight years. I'm not boasting, pardon me for that. I'm just stating some facts, and that should be important to you. If you're going to take some advice, you'll probably want to take it from someone who's been there and has a track record. So to start your own business, first do a quick personal evaluation, because the first thing you need is unmitigated ambition, drive, and confidence. I had often referred to this as fire in the belly. Whenever someone would maybe refer a prospective employee for my business, I would often ask, do they have fire in the belly? So be true to yourself. We all know people who have it, and we all know people who don't. Many folks can get through their life without it, clocking in, clocking out. As an entrepreneur, you never really clock out. I remember early on crawling on my belly at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning before church, trying to diagnose why my network printer wasn't working. Now, I couldn't wait till Monday. Monday, I'd be busy with clients, interviewing or training new employees, making or taking phone calls, and so on. You'll rise to the top, and you'll be a star. You'll be financially successful, but you have to pay your dues, and you got to have that fire in the belly. Of course, you've got to determine what kind of business you intend to start. You probably know this already, since it should be based on what you know and where your competence lies. If you don't, touch base with me, or wait for my upcoming video on the best small businesses to start in businesses I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. A crucial part of this decision is choosing a business where you see the demand and you know what the market is. Know this before you start. And this is key. How are you going to make money? Because even if you have a passion for a certain activity, it doesn't mean you'll make enough money to support a viable business. I can give you examples of competent, talented people who barely eke out a living on their own. Now, they might be content and they're probably happy, but they'll never find financial independence doing what they're doing. So no matter what your business is, think about your market. Think about your profit and loss. Who will be your customers? What are your fees? How exactly will you make money, and how much? And what about your competition? One thing that I believe led to my early success is that my competition was weak. They weren't prepared for someone like me with that fire in the belly. And after just a year or two, despite being new, my business dominated the market. So regardless of what business you start, don't forget that your job is to bring money in the door. By the way, here's a photo I like a lot. It's a photo of one of my partners in one of my business startups. We're happily standing in front of a whiteboard that shows our deals. Every time our company made a deal, we rang a little bell, like at the old hotels, and wrote the deal on the whiteboard. We celebrated. Our competition was tough, but we frequently outflanked them, and we made competition fun. What is it that Mark Cuban's been saying these days? You probably have caught it on television. Challenge me in business and I'll kick your ass. So you have to kind of have that spirit, I think. To drive this type of motivation among my employees, I gave this picture of a hungry tiger. It was either taped to their monitor or somewhere visible, but it was a symbol of having the eye of the tiger, meaning intense focus and fierce determination, especially in the face of setbacks or competition. It's about locking in on your goal with a predator's mindset. Hungry, sharp, relentless. Looking for the next meal or the next deal. So to succeed, know your customers, know your competition. If you do, and if you have fire in the belly, chances are you'll be a winner. Now for some essential details. Of course, you need to decide on a name for your business. At least a temporary name. But don't get too bogged down on this yet, as that's easy to change, especially early on. But when considering a name for your business, check for the obvious. Is an appropriate URL available for a possible website? What about your social media presence? Facebook, X, and so on. This and a Google search will likely tell you if there's someone else using that same name, possibly in the same market or in the same business. I almost made that mistake, but after some research and a minor tweak, the revised name actually came out and made more sense. Could have been a big mistake. And check this name with your Secretary of State's office website, where you'll be filing to formally create your company. So you need a business name and type of business and other information so you can set up a formal business entity. For example, my current YouTube business is Ed Talk Media LLC. And setting up a separate business entity is essential, and it's easy to do. And here's why you'll want to do this as one of your first steps. You want to separate your business from you as a person, because it limits your business's liability to just the business assets, thus protecting your personal and family assets from any liability claims that could arise from the operation of the business. Today, LLCs, limited liability companies, have become the go-to structure for most small business entrepreneurs. And it's my personal opinion that an LLC is generally a good place to start. However, depending on the specific structure of your business, you might elect to become a S Corp, a C Corp, partnership. You need to consider the scope of your business, whether there are partners or not, the tax implications of each type of entity. I'm not a lawyer, so you might want to consult a lawyer or a tax advisor if your startup is complex, if it has a lot of employees, equity partners, plans to issue stock, and so on. I'll be covering that in another video. However, as a sole owner, I found that organizing as an LLC suited me perfectly. And just a word about lawyers and CPAs. They're a necessary evil sometimes, but be wary. Everyone wants a piece of your money, and you can spend a lot of money on these professionals and still not get what you need. So be sure you understand the nature of your engagement when you hire one. I've had great lawyers and great CPAs, but I've also had what I consider lazy and incompetent ones too. I had a lawyer who basically printed generic documents on his printer that were not even suitable for my needs. Then he couldn't even explain these documents to me, and he wanted to charge me $4,000. You may not need a CPA as a startup. Moreover, you should be aware that their normal business is to take your numbers and prepare financial statements and tax forms, not to give advice. So unless you engage them specifically to assist you in tax or business planning and pay additional fees for that, you're basically getting your numbers sort of reformatted. You can do your own bookkeeping or hire a bookkeeper if needed. If your business is very small, has few transactions, you can do them on an Excel spreadsheet or use QuickBooks and do your taxes on TurboTax. In my opinion, if you feel you might need some real planning and assistance with your money in your business, I might suggest a financial planner who's a fiduciary, maybe a certified financial planner. I know some who are CFPs and CPAs and also know taxes. Those people are out there. And make sure your engagement is about planning your business, how it affects you, and so on. By the way, I found out years later that my CPA firm, to which I paid handsome fees each year, were sending my financial information to India. Yep, India. My taxes were being outsourced to India. Nothing against India, but I was still billed at USA rates. Before my most recent LLC, I simply went online, filed with my Secretary of State's office in my state. That took less than an hour. I think it cost $200 or so. Of course, keep track of all those expenses because those are business expenses. I printed the necessary documents on my printer. Easy peasy, done deal. You'll also need to obtain an employer identification number, commonly referred to as an EIN. And you'll need this regardless of whether you intend to have employees or not. The EIN is kind of your business's equivalent to a person's social security number. You need to think of your LLC or whatever form your business takes as a separate person. You have two different tax returns, corporations and companies separate than you are. You can obtain this employer identification number from the IRS website in just a few minutes online, and it's free, no charge. A lot of people want to charge you for that. Next, and also essential, is you need to get a separate bank account in the name of your business. It's imperative that you do not commingle your business funds with personal funds, as that could pierce the corporate veil and the liability protection of your LLC or whatever business form you take. The short version is don't mix business money with personal money. To establish a bank account, I suggest you visit your local branch where you already have a personal account and a history, but be sure the new account is established in the company's name and has no connection with your personal account. Bankers understand this, should easily accommodate your needs. Take these things with you. Your business's employer identification number that you just got from the IRS, and the official LLC documents that you just got from the state and printed out at home. You probably need a photo ID, and you'll need something, probably they'll require an operating agreement. An operating agreement is an internal, legally binding contract that outlines the rules and structure of your business. It's considered a foundational document that dictates how the business will be run. Now, honestly, I asked ChatGPT to prepare a draft for me. I cut and pasted it into a Microsoft Word document and modified it as I deemed necessary. Mine is 2 pages long, brief, and to the point. At this point, I want to remind you that I'm not a lawyer. I'm offering my knowledge as someone who started 4 businesses. You should consider your own knowledge and comfort level and hire legal and financial professionals if you feel the need. One piece of good advice I got when I launched my first business was not to get bogged down on too many details at first. There's that old axiom, paralysis by analysis. It can stop you in your tracks. While preparing this video, I watched several other YouTubes on the subject of starting your own business, and many of them were well-produced videos. But I wondered if these folks had ever really started their own business. Most, not all, buried you with details. And details are certainly important. Don't get too bogged down by them in the early stages. Get out there and make some money. I'm going to guess that the fear of details has kept many people from stepping out on their own. So if you're ready to chart your future, let's go for it. Drop your comments or questions below. I promise to read, answer them all. As you're watching this, I'm working on other related videos in this series pertaining to business forms, your S Corps, C Corps, partnerships, employees, leases, contracts. Be sure to read everything you sign. I mean that. It's very important. Insurance, other issues like that. So if you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to click the bell and choose all notifications so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Ed Talk Today.